stvari sam presrećan, imam priliku da razgovaram sa potpredsjednikom vlade Severne Makedonije, sa ministrom finansija u Savetu ministara Bosne i Hercegovine, sa Aleksandrom Bregoncijem. Dakle, njih trojica i ja na neki način smo javni sektor. Sa druge strane, tu je Sveta Janevski, koga veoma dobro znate, Tikveš, predsjednik uprave, i Grigor Joti. Thank you very much for joining us. He's joining us from Albania. He is doing a business in Albania, in North Macedonia, in Kosovo as well, in the software infrastructure, but also in other sectors. Ja sam želeo da ovaj razgovor bude prilika da porazgovaramo o tome šta javni sektor, koji je ovde pretežno zastupljen, radi. I da li je to i koliko je zaista od koristi za privatni sektor, a to ovde imamo dvojicu ozbiljnih poslovnih ljudi iz regiona i hteo sam od njih da čujem kako oni to vide, šta je njima tu korisno i šta nije korisno. Evo, ima nekoliko politika. Ja sam imao prilike u Savetu za regionalnu saradnju da radim na onome što se danas zove zajedničko jedinstveno tržište. Posle toga je došao zelena agenda za Zapadni Balkan, kao velika nova evropska politika. Pa je došao investicioni plan. Pa evo u Tirani pre nekoliko dana bio je veliki skup na kojem su svi naši lideri podržali growth plan i krenuli su da rade na domaćem planu u izradnji odgovarajućih dokumenta. To su sve na neki način politike koje su evropske politike. Alessandro, thank you very much. They are supported through EIB as European Bank, as well as EBRD, but there are the others who are supportive. It is the World Bank and the other donor communities. But I am going to start with Fatmir Bitici, because I know for years back how much he has invested his personal political capital into making this happen, into supporting regional cooperation. But I'm telling you in advance, then eventually I'm going to turn to Sveto and to Grigor to say, okay, what do you say about all of this? But now I'm turning to you to say, I mean, we are all aware of the efforts done by the government in North Macedonia. As you are heading, as a Deputy Prime Minister, the sector of economic cooperation, how do you see all of these policies? How do they reflect domestically when it comes to your economy? And what is it that you can offer to the region? The floor is yours.
Thank you. Hvala. I will try to speak in the language which provides additional competitiveness. Well, I think that the question, in the way how it is set, it's quite broad. But talking on the panel after all the discussions and the panels and introduction this morning, it cannot be inevitable to not comment. And there is one figure that was mentioned by the Minister of Finance of Serbia, talking on the GDP of the Western Balkan. The cumulative GDP of Western Balkan is something between Slovakia and Hungary in European Union member states. So that's what Western Balkan at the moment is. How competitive that might be, not seeing along each individual country, I will not speak, because the numbers speak itself. And actually, the idea of talking on regional economic cooperation lies on one thing that I have stated 4 years ago. Before the Open Balkan was even initiated, there was some discussion on the initiative of Open Balkan, along with all other initiatives. I said it, maybe it's time, because it came immediately after COVID. Maybe it's time to start talking of not competing each other, but working together in order to become more competitive. And that's the crucial word of if we might actually reach our competitiveness towards the regional and global markets. And unfortunately, we needed like 4 years to spend and that European Union comes with a growth plan in which they are talking on the competitiveness of Western Balkans towards the EU single market and European economy. And they talk on how they might use the added value that Western Balkan might bring to different sectors of European Union, in which actually altogether we will reach our independence or security, I would say, whether it is energy, whether it is industrial stability, and other sectors as well. And I think that the crucial in which we are not talking is whether we are needed puzzle in the whole mosaic of the EU single market. And I think that's the crucial that we have to admit to each other in Western Balkans, and then to say to the other first European Union member states, but globally in Europe, that we are more than needed, because with us they cannot reach the whole, or they cannot fill in the whole mosaic. And unfortunately, it takes quite a long time. And I will come back to your question about different initiatives. And I think that one of the mistakes that has been done in the past is that all these initiatives are driven top-bottom. They are brought to us with certain interest and the willingness to help without asking us what is actually the need of the business community, what is the need of each country to change and to do the appropriate change that we must actually do. And unfortunately, we are now seeing that with quite a small initiative in all different ones, because there are around 72 different initiatives that are enhancing or trying to enhance the regional cooperation. Among them, one is Open Balkan. Unfortunately, it has been quite a lot politicized, but it has the most effects given in the shortest period of time. In less than 3 years, today, people from 3 countries might work in all different countries with a single click and single application.
I'll follow up immediately.
Sorry?
Because I will follow up immediately a conversation with you on this particular issue. What would you expect from this opening of the borders towards the labor in the vicinity? In this case, these 3 countries. What is your expectation? What is going to happen?
I think that it is an introduction to what European Union has. The EU, the mobility of labor force in the European Union exists. Unfortunately, we have been forbidden to have one of the 4 freedoms of European Union. That would happen. I think that other countries of Western Balkan will join, because they will see that you cannot stop a single freedom of people to decide where they want to work with putting administrative and bureaucratic barriers. And I think that's the main effect of what has been done now. We saw that if you leave out the politics and focus on the economic growth and the well-being of the citizens, then the results will come.
I'll tell you why I asked you, because there was an immediate reaction in Serbia. Oh, now we're going to be flooded by Albanian labor. First of all, it's completely wrong, I would say, perception. But second, even if there is an increased number of labor coming to Serbia, and Minister said it this morning, that he expects that the labor will come, having in mind Expo 2027, la la la. But what does it mean then for the economy of North Macedonia or Albania?
Nothing.
We
will simply need to adjust to the new reality of the global context. It's the same like whether we will accept people from Nepal or Philippines to come and work. So this path that we have started, it's there. We have to adapt. We have to change. and to accept that labor force mobility is there, that people will move in order to find a better place to work with a more decent salary for them. What's decent is about them to choose. And that's why, actually, you brought me back in 2009 when I decided to work in the Western Balkan. I quitted a job in Skopje and I said I will go to work in all countries of Western Balkan. And the headquarters of the company was in Belgrade. And I recall at that time I was one of the regional experts that they were using me. And they said, we will use this guy because he's quite competitive. He speaks English, he speaks Albanian, he speaks Serbian, or one of the, he speaks Esperanto, one of the Western Balkan languages, because I would mix it. When I need to speak Jekavica, I would do Ikavica, so. But nevertheless...
And Macedonian, by the way.
And Macedonian, I forgot. 4 languages. And they said, he is quite competitive. And I remember that I was doing training in all countries of Western Balkan, including Croatia. Only Serbia was not taking trainings. After a year, we received a call from Minister of Finance at that time, and they said, we heard that you are delivering quite good trainings on EU funds and everything. And the team leader said, yeah, it's really true. And we have a wonderful guy that is delivering all the trainings in Western Balkans, including Croatia. And they said, okay, we want that guy. And she said, yeah, we do have a slight problem. He is Albanian, by the way. And the minister said, well, as long as he can deliver good training in our language, we don't matter of that. And here I am now. That's why, yeah, maybe we will hear that labor mobility might bring others that are not the same as we are because they speak other language or they have another skin color. But the reality is that we need ourselves. We need all people that are able to help us in order to grow. And that's the crucial that we have to understand. Because if we continue competing with each other and pretending that we are big for ourselves, we will not reach the final goal, and that's that the region itself is competitive enough that our people do not immigrate in Germany or other countries, but they stay here and have a decent life.
Fatmir, vratit ćemo se na organizacije i šta je to što one nude. Nisam zaboravio, a i važno mi je, to je meni suštinsko pitanje danas. Hteo bih da se zahvalim Srđanu Amirđiću, ministru financija u Savetu ministra Bosne i Hercegovine. Bosna i Hercegovina priliku, eto, da se malo pohvali. Prvo, ERP je usvojen, odličan dokument, radi se na growth planu i očekivanja su da će poslednji detalji koji u ovom trenutku nisu dogovoreni, da budu dogovoreni. Dosta je pozitivno iskustvo bilo i sada u Tirani. I zato i hoću i vas da pitam, praktično da se nastavite baš oko ovih stvari. Imao sam prilike da razgovaram baš u kontekstu rada na ERP-u. Da su ljudi u timu koji rade sa Savetom ministra, sa DEP-om vašim, rekli ne, molim te da nam uključiš i Common Regional Market, zajedničko tržište. Sve je pitao, dobro, šta će vam sad, to je ipak dokument državni. Pa da, ali, i onda sam dobio objašnjenje da ipak postoji jedan mali zazor. Da sve ono što dolazi iz susedstva, u ovom slučaju iz Srbije, mora da bude po pravilima jedinstvenog zajedničkog tržišta, ali po standardima Evropske unije. To je važan element i to je upravo ono što growth plan donosi kao jedan od ključnih elemenata, jer kažu, znate šta, ako je po tim standardima proizvedeno, možemo da budemo kompetitivni. Ako je na drugi način proizvedeno u Srbiji, što znači uz državnu pomoć ili drugačije, onda imamo udar na naše tržište. Kako vi to osjećate?
Prije svega, zahvalnost na pozivu. Do sada sam bio u publici i kada sam god bio u publici mislio sam da imam nešto pametno reći, da bi volio da sam ovde. Moram reći da je ljepše dole nego ovde, ali evo, hvala u svakom slučaju na pozivu i to o čemu ste vi govorili, poseban osjećaj i posebna odgovornost je kada se priča o tim stvarima i kada se odlučuje o tim stvarima, pošto sam dio tima vezano za ERP, ne iz razloga što ovde sjede bitni ljudi koji obavljaju neke poslove u vladi ili sjede ugledni članovi akademske zajednice, već što na ovoj sceni već imamo ljude koji se ozbiljno bave privredom. Nekako kada mi pričamo o tim stvarima koje jesu vezane za proces reformi, to o čemu vi upravo govorite, Gorane, ili ste postavili pitanje, mi nekako uvijek zaboravimo na koga se to odnosi. Bojim se da nerijetko uđemo u zamku po kojoj proces reformi je svrha sam za sebe, prilikom čega apsolutno ne postavimo pitanje vezano za dinamiku tih reformi koja nekad treba da je brža, a po mom mišljenju pojedini segmentno nekada i da je sporija, iz razloga što te reforme prije svega se reflektuju na one koji stvaraju dodatnu vrijednost i reflektuju se na ljude koji žive u tim zemljama na koje se reforme same odnose. Između ostalog, dok sam radio na fakultetu, tu je bilo različitih tih nekih teoretskih pravaca koji su pričali u većem ili manjem stepenu liberalizacije u začecima, od fiziokrata do merkantilista, ali bila je jedna fina škola, istorijska škola koja je nastala u Njemačkoj i koja je objašnjavala na koji način Njemačka postala velika privreda. A ona je postala velika privreda zato što se uključivala u tokove u skladu sa svojim komparativnim prednostima i mogućnostima. Tada je Velika Britanija bila zagovornik liberalnog, strogo brzog liberalnog pristupa i u tom strogo brzom liberalnom pristupu sa mnogo jačom ekonomijom bi bilo u stanju da guši ono što je radila njemačka privreda u tom momentu. I mislim kada govorimo o procesu reformi da mi moramo prije svega da pođemo od onoga na koga se taj proces odnosi. Nerijetko, kad su u pitanju zemlje Zapadnog Balkana, mi upadnemo po meni zamku u pojedinim sektorima, da u nastojanju da dosegnemo neke evropske standarde i vrijednostima koje sasvim logično svi težimo i idemo suviše brzo da nakon toga napravimo korak nazad. To su stvari o kojima moramo posebno voditi računa i to o čemu ste vi govorili, mislim da ključni partner prilikom provođenja bilo kojih reformi mora biti prije svega privredni sektor. Kada vidimo kako se to reflektuje na naše privrednike, na takav način možemo i da definišemo dinamiku. I samo na takav način možemo da osjetimo pune benefite procesa tranzicije. Moj pristup tome kada pričamo o usvajanju i programu ekonomskih reformi ili kada pričamo o planu rasta, jeste upravo zasnovan na ovome. Da se malo našali, mislim da je Churchill rekao, kada bi ljudi znali kako se donose zakoni i prave kobasice, ne bi prišli ni jednom ni drugom. Pa eto, meni to stalno vrti po glavi kad god donosimo neke bitne odluke.
Ministre, Srđane, da sam iz neke malo dalje zemlje nego što udaljenije od Bosne i Hercegovine nego što je Srbija, a da smo ovako na panelu u Davosu, normalno bi mi bilo da očekujem da mi ministar da odgovor na pitanje koje su komparativne prednosti Bosne i Hercegovine, na čemu vi vidite budući rast Bosne i Hercegovine. Šta je ono što može da iznesu? Ja ću kažem ono što ja znam ovako. Voda.
Tako je.
Ugalj, ali ugalj je u odlasku. Ima i drugih kritičnih materijala, takođe, sada po najnovim istraživanju Bosne i Hercegovine. Veoma edukovana radna snaga, ali s druge strane depopulacija, odlazak stanovništva. Šta će ministar da kaže, predstavljajući svoju zemlju, gde vidi izvore rasta buduće, imajući u vidu ove evropske politike? Šta je to što stavljate na sto?
Ja mislim da ste vi to odlično posložili. Kad je u pitanju radna snaga ili taj proces depopulacije je, nažalost, prisutan ne samo u Bosni i Hercegovini, već u čitavom regionu i mi imamo situaciju da sve češće susrećemo radnike koji dolaze iz Azije. To je sigurno jedna stvar. Druga stvar, kada je u pitanju Bosna i Hercegovina, posebno Republika Srpska, komparativna prednost se upravo nalazi u energiji, zato što smo mi ozbiljan izvoznik električne energije i tu ostvarujemo suficit kada govorimo o samoj međunarodnoj razmeni. Naravno, evropski standardi koji su vezani za odnos vezano za izvor energije ide u pravcu tome da idemo ka obnovljivim izvorima energije. I to je nešto čemu ću mi sigurno težiti, čemu ću se lično ja što lično prihvatam i oko čega ću se i sam lično zalagati. Ali ako uzmemo sad u ovom momentu kretanje cijene energije i uzmemo proizvedenu energiju u Bosni i Hercegovini na bazi kojih izvora, kada bi mi to kruto primijenili u ovom momentu, to bi se reflektovalo na isti način kao što se recimo možda reflektovao ovaj sukob u Ukrajini, pa je cijena svih energenata u Evropi otišla strašno visoko, pa sad svi plaćamo tu cijenu kada je u pitanju sama proizvodnja u Evropi, jer vidimo da kompletna Evropa ima ozbiljan izazov vezano za stope rasta, odnosno faktički imate ozbiljne zemlje koje su nosioci Evrope, nalaze se u tehničkoj recesiji. To je nešto u što mi ne smijemo da upadnemo, da taj proces tranzicije mora da odgovara realnosti koja postoji u Bosni i Hercegovini, kako sa aspekta samog stanovništva i njihove kupovne moći, odnosno socijalnog položaja, tako i sa aspekta privrede i cijene električne energije koju plaćaju. Tako da ono što jeste naša osnovna komparativna prednost, o čemu ste vi govorili, moramo voditi računa da je kao takvu zadržimo, a u nastojanju da usvojimo dobre, fine i ispravne vrijednosti, da ne ugrozimo postojeću poziciju kako privrede ili da ugrozimo ovaj standard stanovništva.
Alessandro, you're going to be the last one to be invited to speak. Sorry, but in the meantime, I'd like to talk more with the colleagues. Fatmir, I'm turning back to you, sorry. What do you think you, meaning North Macedonia, is bringing at a table in these terms of growth for the region, as Srđan has just started?
Well, again, it will sound that I'm not representing North Macedonia. I think that North Macedonia, along with all other countries of Western Balkan, might bring to the European market an opportunity for a nearshoring in all other sectors. I think that's the crucial in the new context, global context. Nearshoring means bringing closer the value chain in different industries in Western Balkan from Far East that already they have. This morning, Mr. Vlahovic was talking about how Germany is doing, and he stressed out that Germany is a main partner for Serbia. It's a main partner for Macedonia as well. It's a main partner for all countries of Western Balkan. Let's help them in order to help ourselves. Second is, what we might bring is that all together we work. In North Macedonia, we have aligned the policies in support of FDIs with those of domestic investors. So we do not treat domestics and foreign differently. We treat equally. And with the only one aim, in order to help them, that they become more competitive, in order that they meet standards in the value chain of different industries. And this is something that we have all together to work. There are significant numbers for North Macedonia in which I might speak, but again, the numbers might be silly. In 5 years ago, we had 0 companies, 0 domestic companies held by the state in different sectors. Today, we have more than 920 domestic companies that has been incentivized by the state with 100 million euro in order to create an investment cycle of 500 million euros. That's the way how you create more competitive domestic economy, and more significantly, the 30% of them are part of certain supply chain, value chain of other important industries in Europe. And that's crucial, what we have all together to do. Not individually as countries, but all together in order that we create the added value which is utmost needed.
Sveto Crjanevski, hvala puno da je lojalan domaćin i gost na Kopaoniku. Ono što sam ja na početku rekao, Sveto, je u stvari pitanje za tebe. Mislim, ja i sebe doživljam kao deo tog javnog sektora, politika kao što su jedinstveno tržište, zelena evropska agenda. a u stvari si ti ovde glas onih koji će da kažu ovo ima smisla, ovo nema smisla. Posluješ u celom regionu. Meni je žao što Fabris Peruško, CEO Fortenove, nije s nama, nešto je iskrslo, inače bi bio dobar partner za ovaj razgovor, ali evo, pitanje za tebe, dakle, od ovih velikih politika, šta je to što je ono što ti očekuješ da dobiješ? Izvoli.
Hvala ti, Gorane. Malo pre, prethodni panel tamo, Evropska unija, Chris Killian i drugi pričaju. I ta priča je, što bi rekao, Bertrand Russell sa faktima. Mi smo dali toliko para, dobili smo toliko razvoja, ove zemlje kako idu, kojim putem idu, za 70 godina treba stignu u Evropsku uniju. I to su fakti. Međutim, ima jedna druga stvar. Stalno slušamo complain da ove zemlje su, Balkan je korumpirani region, ima visoka korupcija. Ja uvek želim da kažem ovim ljudima, pa zbog čega dajete pare njima? Zašto se kladite na konja koji gubi? Vi merite public investment, efikasnost javnih investicija da je manje od 50%. Znači, vi 2 puta plaćate za istu stvar. Ako je to tako, pričamo o tome kako nezavisni investitor ili nezavisni predprijemač može da dođe i da jednostavno da gura svoj progres u tom delu razvitka svoje kompanije ili nove kompanije. To ide vrlo teško. Bankarski sistem kod nas je konzervativan. Da bi uspeli da dobijete nešto, treba da imate 3 do 4 puta više kapitala već stvorenog da bi dobili jedan. I kad gledamo sve to, siromaštvo, lack of financing u regionu, i to je bilo oduvek, to je bilo konstatirano, da prvo mi imamo vrlo nizak human capabilities, druga stvar je da nemamo finansiranje, a treća stvar je da imamo korupciju i sve pare idu prema javnim investicijama i tamo se troše duplo nego što treba. Šta smo dobili? Danas slušamo, da, ja priznajem, prvo ja sam taj tradicionalistni, konzervativan, navikao sam na ono jugoslovensko tržište i verujem u to da ćemo se mi vratiti i zbog toga sam tu. Međutim, pristup oko toga kako to postići, to je ipak filozofsko pitanje i ne zavisi od mene, nego filozofija lidera koje imamo sada u regionu. Najviše Srbija treba da doprinese, a šta se dešava kod okolnih? Kod okolnih postoji taj strah od paternalizma, strah od veličine, recimo potpisivanje ugovora za radnu ruku znači da normalno radna ruka ide tamo gde je bolje, a mi računamo da Srbija brže se razvija, ona je veća ekonomija i tako dalje, da će radna ruka da ide prema tamo gde je bolje. Međutim, koja je radna ruka kad mi više nemamo radne ruke? Koja je radna ruka? Makedonija je izgubila 1/3 stanovništva za ovih 20 godina i tako da vi ne možete da nađete običnog radnika sad u Makedoniji. I prema tome, koliko mi čekamo i čekamo da se nešto desi, da neko nam pomogne, niko nam neće pomoći i kao što možemo mi. Ali razgovarati o tome sa političkim lidershipom je malo teže. Zbog toga što dijalog je nepoznat. Imali smo nekad dijalog, ali dijalog je sada imati oprečno mišljenje naspram političkog lidershipa, znači da se da napadate, da ne prihvate taj politički lidership. Jedna anketa u Makedoniji je pokazala da, izvini Fatmire, a i ti, Hadžiću, kaže najviše mladih koji su sposobni, koji su u mogućnosti sa znanjem, oni idu na zapad, a ovi drugi ostaju u zemlji. Tako da sve ostaje u zemlji i ide prema politici. Izgradili smo jedan sistem koji, recimo, kad razgovaram sa mladima, ja ih pitam šta je to, kako gledate vi na stanje u zemlji. I oni kažu, čika sve to, kaže, pa vidi, 5 miliona 3 godine zatvora, ovi moji prijatelji kažu, oni bi odležali 5 godina za 5 miliona. I znači, stvaraju se neke druge vrednosti. Mi smo izgubili osnovne vrednosti u društvu. Mi ne govorimo to o etici, nego hrabrost kako da ti jednostavno postaneš bogat na brzini, onako, da okrenemo, da prevrtimo, nemaš ti vrednosti, da daje nešto, da radimo, da gradimo, da kreiramo nešto, da radimo inovacije i tako dalje. Tako da to prevrtanje iz svega toga ide u tim pravcem da mi moramo da se bavimo. Ja malo pre smo slušali za edukaciju. Edukacija i sve ono što nam se dešava, tu nam je Aca educiran pre neki dan, napao me Vlado Kambovski i počeo da mi priča za politiku i političko stanje u Makedoniji. Pa kažem, ti si profesor, ja nisam. Ja mogu da vam dam primjer kako radim. Ja radim u kompaniji, stvaram kompaniju 20 godina da bi izašao a ti si baš taj krivičar koji radite i koji kreirate studente. I za nas će biti posebno problematično za sve nas kako napraviti i obrazovati taj kadar koji treba da dođe. Sa Fincima kad dolaze, oni su moji Finci i oni idu u ministarstvo za prosvetu da bi se uradili, da bi napravili nešto, neki pomak u edukaciji. Mi smo svi izgubili školski sistem, a prokleta je ta zemlja u kome je edukacija pala na nula. To je gotovo prokletstvo. Mi smo imamo veliki procenat nepismenih sada u Makedoniji. To i kod vas se dešava i to je isto. I prevrtanje svega toga, ja bio sam u septembru tamo sa Fincima i govorim, ljudi Božji, nemoj da idete u vladu. U vladi se ne dešavaju reforme. Koja je ta budala koja će pokrenuti reforme, a da ne vide završetak u svom mandatu? Za 2 do 4 godine vi da napravite reformu u edukaciji i nije moguće. Dajte da radimo eksperimentalno, da vidimo. Ja sam počeo, imam 2 smo, sad tražimo 3, da počnemo eksperimentalna škola, da počnemo od 1. razreda, da bi stvarali pristup školstva i edukacija sa novim vrednostima. I sve je to, zbog čega to kažem, kad izgubite vrednost, kad izgubimo vrednost, moramo da se vratimo vrednostima koje treba da damo čoveku da bi uspeli da gradimo nešto što treba da izgradimo. Treba da gradimo naciju, treba da gradimo državu, treba da gradimo ekonomiju i treba da obezbedimo oportunity za mlada ljude. Sve je to u kontekstu onoga što pričamo. Region i razvoj u regionu i priča koja treba da traje dugo između nas. Inače, izvan nas to ne može da se reši.
Grigor, first of all, thank you very much for joining us. Second, Sveta Janevski was very open, sending messages to the political sector. And this is exactly why, having in mind your business, that you have developed software infrastructure, recently real estate, but even before, well-developed distribution in these 3 economies, Macedonia, Kosovo, Albania. I'd like to ask you actually very same question. What politics and economics can help Serbia and Western Balkans to progress? How can the politics help the business community? Please, what is your opinion? And I understand there are also some slides that you might share with us, so please.
Thank you very much. Well, first, I'm maybe not the guy to talk about big politics or economics. This is not my cup of tea. But I will talk something say important, more human-related, that also can efficiently influence in the success of every economic or politic decision. It is about strengthening the ties, the relationship, and the friendship between Western Balkan nations, and this to be perceived as a key factor in that will help the economic development of our region, and also to be perceived as a social responsibility from the business community and civil society. We are all aware that we as Western Balkan has gone through a complicated history. We have our own traditions, experiences, and cultures that makes our region very unique. But sadly, our region very often is perceived from the Western world through his turbulent past. I would say that also we perceive these problems and we are influenced from our past. But my question is that should we continue as we are with this perception, or should we do something?
So what the business can do to turn around this perception? What the business can add into this?
I think that the business has a lot of potential to help in improving the ties and the relation between the nations of the Western Balkans. We as business, I think we have a more clear view of what our nations need and what is best for our future. So we have to work to change this perception through our work, and our everyday work help our interchange in the trade between countries, investment from one country to the other, the tourism or other activities already influence in improving the relations between countries. I can bring my own experience from the business perspective.
Please do.
First, when I established a company in Northern Macedonia back in 2007, perceived as an Albanian company going there, it was not easy to hire North Macedonian nationalist employees from North Macedonian nationality. With the time and with our work, we managed that now this obstacle is overcome, and we hire very easily every kind of nationalism. And our team now from Albania and Macedonia work together, and also it's very nice to see when they celebrate together when we have joint activities. But I will talk also from another perspective, from my personal...
That I like to hear very much. How does business turn into personal relationship and back?
Also, my personal and family experience shows that we have many things in common. Well, it happened that my daughter, Albanian lady, came one day to me and said, I want to marry a wonderful Serbian man called Miloš. At first, I was wondering how they will handle their relationship and how they would overcome the differences that I was supposing to...
Be cautious what you're going to say. Both of them are here, listening.
Yes, they are here. And also about the football competition, because with Albania, with Serbia, has some issues in football. But when our families met together and we knew each other, I was surprised that talking to my in-laws, it was like talking to my next-door neighbor. We share jokes, we discuss friendly, we exchange Slivovica from Serbia with grape raki from Albania. And we think that in all my perception of the past are overcome. And I think that what like happened with my family, it should happen with the whole nations, because we don't have essential differences. We have many common traditions, many common experiences, and if we will overcome our problems of the past and to look at the future, at the interests of our nations, it's a good, very important thing that will help also business develop more in our region and will help the Western world to perceive Western Balkan with a new view, with a more developed, and as an opportunity to invest.
What about the slides that you wanted to show? Are we going to see them?
Yes, I missed one important slide. So I wanted to stress, so after that I experienced my personal experience, I wanted to tell to everybody that our past should not control our future. We have to overcome all problems and we have to see what is best for our nations, what is best for our families, what is best for our children and for the next generation.
Can we rebrand ourselves as the Balkans?
I beg your pardon?
I'm asking, can we rebrand ourselves following your idea
Yes.
as the Western Balkans together?
Yes, I think that, so besides that everyday job that the business is doing through trade, through investments, I would suggest that we to make some more proactive actions. We as business in the Western Balkan employ the majority of the population in our companies. So I think we can influence a lot on them. How can we influence? By very simple actions. We can ask our human resources departments to ask to our employees to add in their email signature a new message. For example, we, people of Balkan, in friendship we progress. Imagine millions of emails flooding over all our countries and also in Europe. I think that everybody that will see this message will think in a better way about Balkan. We can go even more deeply. Eventually, we can establish an initiative, Friendly Balkan Initiative, where in a more organized way, companies collaborate, inviting also the social society, civil society, through their organizations to help here. I know that EU has several projects that can finance such kind of activities. So why not sorry.
Well, but this was a clear message, and I'm very much grateful that you have shared it with us. I would like to turn now to you. Srđan je hteo da kaže jednu rečenicu povodom Svetanog pominja obrazovanja, ja sam čuo, tako sam shvatio, pa ćemo da nastavimo. Izvolite.
Pa evo, želio bih malo da se našalim i vrlo mi je interesantno da uz toliki nivo korupcije kom ste pričali u Sjevernoj Makedoniji ste uspjeli da napravite tako ozbiljnu korporaciju, svaka čast koja je regionalno poznata. Pošto mi u Bosni i Hercegovini nemamo problema sa korupcijom, ali evo, interesantno mi je da ste napravili takvu korporaciju s tolikim nivom korupcije. To je jedna stvar. Druga stvar, ja mislim da ste vi pogodili u srž. To me ponukalo da se javim upravo ovo o čemu ste vi govorili, to je obrazovanje. Obrazovanje nije problem samo u zemljama Zapadnog Balkana. Ja sam ubjeđenja da je obrazovanje nešto što je postao problem u Evropi. Da, mi govorimo da mladi ljudi odlaze, ali te migracije su postale uobičajene i unutar Evrope, a onda iz Evrope ljudi sve više idu prema Aziji i idu prema Sjedinjenim Američkim Državama. Dovoljan je samo jedan podatak koji je ujedno i najveći problem kako našeg regiona, ja želim da vjerujem i konkurentnosti Evrope, to je da posmatrate samo broj Nobelovaca i porijeklo Nobelovaca kad su u pitanju prirodne nauke. Ajde, kad govorimo o književnosti, umjetnost, kultura, to će biti ljudi iz Evrope. Ali ako pričamo o onome što su prirodne nauke, što su nosioci svih bitnih procesa, onda će vam odgovor biti sasvim jasan. U procesu reformi, koje smo mi ponekad shvatili na taj neki pogrešan način, evo ja mogu reći o obrazovanju u Bosni i Hercegovini, ja mislim da su te reforme shvaćene na jedan pogrešan način. Mi smo uveli 9-godišnje osnovno obrazovanje, u Srbiji je to 8-godišnje, ja mislim da smo djeci ukrali jednu godinu mladosti, a s druge strane doveli smo situaciju da učenici komanduju nastavnicima i profesorima, ne obrnuto. I to je najveći izazov i želim apsolutno da se saglasim sa vama, jer od starih Helena kažu ako hoćete da uništite neko društvo, samo mu uništite obrazovni sistem. I to je izazov za koji ja ne znam koji je odgovor i sve razvijene ekonomije su one ekonomije koje danas nemaju problem sa obrazovanom radnom snagom i nemaju problem sa ljudima koji su spremni da rade. Još jedan detalj, imao sam priliku samo jednom da budem u Aziji, to je u pitanju bio Tajvan, tamo su bili neki mladi ljudi, pripravnici, pozvao sam ih da dođu u Evropu, oni su rekli da nemaju vremena, ne mogu. Kako? Zato što recimo prve godine oni imaju samo 2 dana godišnjeg odmora, koja ne iskoriste, jer to ne bi bilo uvažavanje prema kompaniji.
Srđane, mi smo imali situaciju ovde da je publika reagovala na ono što je govorio Grigor, kad je poslao poruku da treba da se osjećamo ponosno i da radimo što više na tome kao biznis zajednica, da se predstavimo zajednički i na ono što je Sveta govorio kad je pomenuo 2 stvari. Jedno je korupcija i drugo je obrazovanje. Znači, očigledno da postoji rapprochement, da postoji odnos ljudi koji sede ovde prema onome što dolazi od biznisa. Therefore, I would actually like to turn to you, Alessandro, at the moment. I had deliberately left you for the very end of our conversation because I wanted to ask you, one of the comments we have heard it this morning from the president of Serbian Association of Economists is whether the governments are supporting equally foreign and domestic investors. And then I understand that here from the panel the question was in a way similarly phrased. Sveta was clearly saying support private sector, turning to you. Now I'm asking you, to what extent the EIB as European Bank, together also with EBRD, another European bank, how do you approach this cry coming from the region? We are also element of growth of all of these economies. So therefore, I'd like to hear from you, how do you relate to private sector, and then what else all of these countries can expect in the coming years in the context of the growth plan? Please.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me into this panel. It's an honor. Referring to what the activity of the EIB in terms of support the private sector development, I mean, EIB is not well known, sufficiently known, I think, in the Western Balkans for its contribution to the private sector development. It's a pity. It's clearly an area where our, let's say, friends and partners like EBRD, IFC have been more successful in managing support to large corporate investments. However, it's important to note that as a matter, factually, private sector support is roughly 40% of our volumes, overall of our portfolio, and this comes mostly through the commercial banking sector. I mean, this is related to the fact that it's inherent to the characteristic of our bank. And it's not an excuse, but it's the same in European Union. European Union is our largest market, and we function exactly the same. Of course, we have a larger portion of large corporates because it comes from larger markets with bigger GDP. And
so what do you say, 60-40?
Let's say the 35-40% of our portfolio goes to private sector and goes through private sector via commercial banks. It's a matter of capacity. So what do? You do what you handle better. So in our case, we manage this to a very strong network of partner banks with whom we have relationship around Europe. And in that sense, of course, regional integration is important. So the area of the Western Balkans, I would say the Southeastern European, was already part of integration of financial sector back in the days when banks from Austria mostly have created branches and subsidiary all across the region. So through this network of banks, we are able to reach out to the private sector. So actually, private sector receives conditions that are financial conditions, because at the end of the day, we are a bank, that are equivalent to what we can offer to EU companies. Now, the question is how well marketed or visible is towards the economy or the local communities. And I think this is an area where, as the European Union itself has to make some improvements and to try to pass the message that we are not forgetting parts of population or the economy. On the contrary, we just need to improve our communication and transfer of this information to them.
My second question for you is, what shall we expect from the EIB in the context of the growth plan?
Okay.
Where does the money go?
Yes.
Both for the government representatives and for the business representatives here. What should they look into it?
So I believe during these days, I mean, we have heard about the growth plan several times. We heard about the famous 4 pillars. I will repeat for the sake of, knowledge: integration of the EU single market, implementation of the common regional market, which is the regional cooperation we are talking about here, reform agenda, which is, I would say, the most, the stick, while the first 2 are more the carrots, let's put it like this. And the 4th one still is part of the carrot, and it's a substantial increase in the financial assistance of all Western Balkans economies. And not individually, but as a whole. I think the leitmotif of this growth plan and of the discussion I heard in Tirana, you mentioned before, Goran, Tirana, I was there with the leaders, and I felt a completely changed vibe from the past as to what benefits this growth plan can bring to countries, even countries that will face
What
more
happened
issues.
between Skopje and Tirana?
Well, I think Skopje.
I was in Skopje, and the way the leaders were speaking about growth plan was much more cautious, while in Tirana it was overwhelmingly positive.
I think that, first of all, I think we have to be thankful for Skopje to paving the way. I think that it's very important that the region took ownership. I mean, this is something that I felt, most of the time, the enlargement process or the accession process is felt more like, okay, we are obliged now to implement EU standards, EU rules, EU procedures, the famous acquis, and we don't see the benefit. Whereas here, I feel that with the fact that they are getting access to benefits of the European Union integration before membership, there is a drive. There is a drive for the countries to move this forward and to show that they're able to commit. This, I think, it started already with the Open Balkan Initiative, as Deputy Prime Minister was mentioning. The main issue of the Open Balkan Initiative is clearly said in the lack of inclusiveness, or the fact that not all the economies were willing to participate. Now we see this more inclusive, dialogue amongst the parties, but the same vibe in terms of, okay, we want to do more because regional cooperation is something that is going to be part of our legacy, even in terms of future political legacy for the leaders. And I was not in Skopje, but what I could feel is, first of all, what the French would say a fil rouge. So there's a continuity of something that is being said in Skopje that is followed up. So most of the time, what people complain is that you make statements into the big summit, but then afterwards there's no concrete follow-up. What are the next steps? Now, I believe that in Skopje, the roadmap was identified, and in Tirana, what happened is that there have been set dates, timelines for this. I mean, we heard about the fact that most of the countries should apply for entering in SEPA before the year end. Same as for the adoption of the CEFTA rules for the authorized economic operator. So there are very concrete actions identified, so the roadmap, with the concrete deadlines. And on top of that, there is, let's say, some cherry on the cake, like, for example, this European Digital Innovation Hub access to companies in the Western Balkans, or the fact that municipalities, 500 municipalities, will be able to receive grants to deploy Wi-Fi in public and public spaces. I think all this is a visible and tangible result of an idea which is not necessarily coming from Brussels, but is also coming from the region.
Before continuing, we do have time, and if anyone would like to ask a question, please wave. Otherwise, I'll continue with my colleagues in the panel. Okay, so we are continuing. And turning back to you, Sveto. Ima li nešto
Ja bih
tu za
hteo
tebe?
samo malo, počeo sam dao ti predimstvo i tako dalje. Pristup nezavisnog biznisa stvara nezavisne ljude. Mi imamo zatvoreni krug u kome politika i ekonomija su vezani. I kada imate krug, vi nemate nezavisno razmišljenje. Vi radite u krugu. Srđano kažem kako mi je. Došla jednom čerka u jednoj godini, imao sam 600 titles u 6 meseci i ona mi je rekla da sam popularniji od bilo kog lidera na Balkanu. Ali nisu bili pozitivni, sve negativni. I to ti je
I liderski su isti, veruj mi.
To ti je život. Šta da radim? Bio si popularan na negativni način. Međutim, pristup šta je poenta? Juče pričamo sa Kristom, tvorci demokratije u Americi su malo ovako, nazovi biznismeni, JP Morgan, pa Carnegie Melloni, pa Rockefeller, pa ovo, pa ono. A tvorci i borba protiv korupcije, Rotary klub i opet biznismeni. Znači, kad ti dođe preko glave, treba da nađeš još dvojicu, da napraviš trojke i da napraviš pokret koji ide tim putem. Tranzicija i promjena na tim delovima gde se ruši jedan sistem, napraviti drugi, Gustave Le Bon kaže, to će da traje toliko godina koliko je trajao prethodni sistem. Znači, stvoriti novu generaciju, treba će 50 godina. Mi smo do sada 34 godine u tranziciji, još jedno 15 godina da završimo posao. I to je to. Ali da li će neko ostati? I sad je to brzina. Da li treba da čekamo još tih 15 godina i treba nešto da promenimo? Zbog toga što ako vidite da se kladite na ragu, pa nećete vajde i na drugoj trci, izgubili ste pare, pa opet na ragu se kladite. Pa nema smisla. Nema smisla. Znaš, dolaze reporti, efikasnost investicija kod vas je ispod 50%. Za region govorim. Pričamo o ekonomiji. Ekonomiji, danas je Aca govorio o ekonomiji, pa i Siniša Mali. Koliko tih kompanija koji sada znače prodor ili razvoj ekonomije u Makedoniji i u Srbiji su domaće kompanije? Koliko tih kompanija nisu u free zoni i koliko tih kompanija ima value added više od 2? E sad, kad to pogledate i sve skupite, vidite gde idete. Srbija je počela da gubi i pala je ispod average value added. A mi govorimo o tome kako da stvaramo, kako da budemo konkurentni, kako da budemo bogati. Ne možemo. Ne možemo. Tim putem se ne ide. Moramo da se okrenemo da promenimo ono što smo krenuli, ono što smo investirali. Makedonija uze 90% hrane. Guvernerka govori Srbija, inflacija u Srbiji zavisi od hrane i energetike. A zamisli kako zavisi inflacija u Makedoniji.
Imam pitanje, but I have a question for you and for our guest, Grigoriotti, and this is, to what extent you feel that you are appreciated as a businessman leading big, important companies by your governments? What is your rapprochement with your authorities? In your case, regional, in Grigor's also semi-regional. So, pitanje, Grigor, will you start and then how do you feel? Do you feel being appreciated? Do they understand what are you striving for?
We are very much appreciated when we feel
and you pay the tax.
The taxes, this for sure. Then, to be very openly, yes, there are some structures, some organizations which invite us to express our opinion. Also, there are some rules that every law has to go through public consulting or to be discussed with business associations, and we try to influence. But the scale of being taken in consideration, I doubt that how much it is. Our government take much more in consideration the suggestion from MFA or World Bank or IMF, sorry. But it's a process. Before we were listened less, now a bit more, and I think it's a process. Also, the business has to also be more consolidated and to be more objective on what they are asking, because it's in our economies, like Sveta said, it's not one hand only. It's not only government that has problem. Also, it's the business. I think this is a dual game.
Sveto, a question for you, but also continue from what Grigor was telling us. Do you feel that you are heard? Da li osjećaš da te čuju? I to ne samo vlade, nego i Alessandro.
Vidi, u principu, znaš, govorimo o jedna druga kategorija ljudi koji dolaze, politički leadership i njegova partija. Njegova partija je bila koncentrat intelektualnog nivoa. Sada, nažalost, to nije. I sada vi idete da se suprostaviti nekom mišljenju. I sada kad biraš sa određenim ljudima, pričaš u tome. Međutim, to se ne shvata. Imate taj pristup velike frustracije sa ljudima koji sede u vladi i koji rade za platu i koji nisu dobili mogućnosti, ne govorimo o Fatmiru, čast izuzecima i još nekim tamo, ali drugi deo nije uspeo u životu, otišao u politici. I sad, šta da radimo? Kod vas u Srbiji imate kontinuitet. Kod nas svake 4 ili 5 godine se menja vlada. Mi imamo nestabilna vlada.
Svake 4 je normalno, da prostiš.
Molim?
Svake 4 je normalno.
Da, normalno je, ali kod nas kad se menja, revolucionerno se menja. I kad se promeni, onda ti dolazi sada, šta očekujemo? Sada imamo promene i onda dolazi revanšizam. I onda se godinu dana jurimo, optužujemo, pokrenamo sudske postupke i mi ne radimo ništa. Mi čekamo neko drugi da nam reši sve to. I sada to je problematično jedno stanje u kome se vrtimo u krug. A politički leadership i ono što se dešava, ti je prvo gledam sebe, posle gledam partiju, a dalje moja vizija za zemlju, ma zajebi.
Pitanje za Fatmira, Srđana, and then for Alessandro. Yes, of course, but the question is very much linked to what Sveta was saying. Do you think there is a structural dialogue? I mean, formally there is, but these were the comments, so please continue.
Well, I have to say, I was part of the business community, and one thing that I established once I became Deputy Prime Minister is a structural dialogue with the businesses. And actually, it's one of the rare countries that I have to admit that we have a public-private dialogue regularly done every month, and it's fixed on last Friday at 10 o'clock. We meet at the government chaired by myself and the other ministers in order to try to create a better environment. But that's not all, because you might have the structured dialogue, but there is one crucial thing: what's the expectation from the dialogue? And I was teased by your question whether the businesses are appreciated in respective countries, North Macedonia, Albania. And I recall one thing that I said it several years ago when I was part of the Chambers of Commerce. At that time I said that government should be there in order to pave the road, because the businesses will find a way to success itself. And the government is not there to carry on the businesses on their shoulders. And still, even today, I believe in that.
Alessandro.
Because in that way, actually, both will be more appreciated. They will find a way on greater to be appreciated.
How would you explain the structure of a dialogue between European institutions, including EIB, and the private sector.
Left, certainly, I would say the dialogue with our institution cannot come bilaterally. I think that needs to come from a framework where Minister of Finance, Minister of Economy, depending on the country, bring us in as a potential financial support to the private sector to see area where competitiveness could be increased thanks to the assistance of our funds in the forms of, let's say, favorable loans or risk-sharing instruments. I say this because simply will not be effective, not efficient to have. You don't have the size of large EU member states where you can have this kind of bilateral dialogue. So it's very important that the relevant governments set up areas where there is a dialogue not only with the EIB but all other partners to ensure, and as I said, also with the commercial banks, because our channel of distribution for the smaller and medium-sized enterprises is the commercial banks, that all the parties are together so that we
So when you say
achieve.
it cannot be bilateral, you're basically saying it needs to come as a result of dialogue between the business sector and the governments, and then through governments to us,
Or tripartite.
and also via commercial banks. That's basically what you were telling us. Did I
think
get
this
it?
is the effective way for the way we function, and even institutions that have larger local presence for historical reasons will simply not be able, even if with their capacity, to manage the demand of an economy which is very granular. I mean, honestly, the size of the largest companies in the Western Balkans are too small for.
Yeah, true. Thank you. The last sentence is...
Just
Look.
to add, last sentence. In European Union, because development depending by strong company, value chain company, building and company which is giving development, etc., etc. They call cherry pick company, and this reason is not used in the Balkan. The second, right now we are working with GIS, German, they are supporting this line, building pyramid in value chain. So far, it's no bank to support us.
Okay.
No, so far, it's nothing, because my company is working with 2,000 cooperants. 2,000 cooperants. And just imagine.
Last sentence, Fatmir, and then Srdjan.
I think that the last sentence that I would like to say, and this is actually a message to what Alessandro was saying on what happened between Skopje and Tirana on economic growth plan, is that you have to understand that you never ask or you never oblige the Balkan people to do something because they cannot be obliged. Let them to understand themselves that the change is a necessity and need, and they will do it. And actually that happened between Skopje and Tirana.
Hvala ti, to je bilo moje pitanje. Posljednje, ministar je prozvan financija u strane Alessandra.
Prvo komentar i posljednja taj zaključna rečenica. Što se tiče komentara i ovih promjena, ja želim da kao neko koji je u vlast da kažem da sam protiv promjena i u Republici Srpskoj i u Srbiji, to je prvo. A drugo, kada je u pitanju poruka za zemlje regiona, kooperacija, ne konkurencija, mislim da je to vrlo jednostavno, dovoljno ima prostora za sve.
But then we are back to what Grigor was telling us, cooperation rather than a competition, so we, the Balkans, speak in one voice together. Thank you very much for the panel. Hvala najlepše svima.